Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the REDX podcast. My name is Tyler, and today's going to be pretty cool. We've got some cool stuff to talk about. Let me introduce our guest for today's show, Neil Spencer. Neil, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks so much. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah. So, Neil, you and I know each other, obviously. For those of you who don't know who Neil is Vice President of Product here at REDX. And so we're going to talk about some cool stuff today, and Neil was best suited for the job. And so we're excited to have you, Neil. This is going to be fun. One of the things that I think, before we get to what we really want to talk about, you as VP of Product, help people understand what you do here at REDX. Like, what is your role, and how do you help REDX progress?
Yeah, so when we're building products out, several different products, and when we're building out products, what we're really looking to do is find out how we can add value to our customers and try to do that in the way that's best possible. So understanding what are the right products to build out of the current products that we have, how can we make those products better? What are new features that we're trying to release or trying to get out to our customers? And ultimately, our goal is to help you guys do your jobs better within the software, which really comes down to getting more listings.
Awesome, thank you. So, how do we build products at REDX? Let's just maybe that might be a really simple question, and I'm going to let you go as detailed as you want, but ultimately, because a lot of times, my sales team here, we talk to customers and prospects, and sometimes there's questions about, oh, well, do you have this product? Do you have that product? And sometimes we even get questions we have conversations where people go, well, that seems really simple. Why don't you guys just build that? And so help us understand how an idea turns into an actual product that we release out to our customers. Just take us from start to finish it and give us the main bullet points there or the main milestones of how we build a product at REDX.
For sure. So I like to start off really high level and then try to get down into the specific stages. Okay. So if we just talk about those stages first, and then we can get into more details as you have questions. But I want to start off with an analogy. A lot of people think of building software as a super complex thing that they just have no understanding and things go over their head, and they just think that people should just be able to do it really easily. There's truth to that. The other part, though, is sometimes people look at it and say, well, that's just a simple little button on there. Like, why is it difficult to build something like that? And that's because there's a lot more that happens on the back end that typically gets skipped over. So people try to make an analogy around building a home because most people understand what it takes to build a house. It's a big project. There are lots of different people involved, and there are different stages that take place. But when I think of software, especially a software that already exists, it's less like building a new home, and it's more like doing a custom build or a custom remodel while you have thousands of people living in the home. And that's what adds a lot of complication to what we're trying to do, because we can't disrupt what is currently taking place. So as you look at the stages that you have in developing a product, first it starts with ideation. You get ideas, and most of the time those come in form of solutions, but really it's problems that we're trying to solve. So even when solutions come in, we have to peel back and try to understand what's the problem that we're trying to get at. And we talk about some specifics through different products that we've recently released of how we've done that. But once we get an understanding for the problem, then we can start to build requirements around that, start to scope out what all the things that this product should do, who are the people that are going to be affected by this product feature. And then we start doing some designs, and that's when we start to visualize what the product is going to look like. What's the experience for the user going to be like? And then we try to do testing. We really try to do testing at any stage that we're building the product, but we want to get some users to get on it and poke some holes in the designs and make sure that it's intuitive or easy for them to use. At that point, we start going into development, and this is when we start architecting it out, understanding how the database works, how data is going to flow back and forth, and then how it's going to appear to the user. And those are really three main parts of development. We can talk more about those if you have. Data is stored on and those are mostly in databases or tables. And then there's the front end part, which is how what the user sees and what they click on, the buttons and how the data comes and shows up. And then there's all this logic in between that moves data back and forth and helps data get stored and makes it easy to show up, tries to make it fast for users to be able to see it. And so those are really the three main parts of development.
So when somebody, let me just jump in here. So when somebody says, well, hey, you put this button right here in Vortex, right? There's far more than just placing, dropping, and dragging a button there, right? So you're talking about front end and back end, and then all the communication between the two, and making sure that logic and communication doesn't step on the toes of some other logic and communication.
Yes, exactly. It's similar to like when you go back to the house. It's like you walk in and you see a plug-in, or you see someone that can flush a toilet, but and you know that it had some, but you don't see any of the plumbing or the electrical and how it works with different circuit breakers and making sure that if you flip one switch that something else doesn't catch on fire. If you use some plumbing some way that it doesn't back up in, like if you flush your toilet, doesn't back up in your shower or something like that. Those are all things that happen within a home, and it's significantly more complicated to do that. But yeah, that's a similar type of thing. It seems simple to show up. Then you have to get into testing, and testing is a whole nother piece where we're testing not just functionality, but we're also testing the design and making sure that any previous functionality hasn't been affected. And then you have all your release, how you get people on it, how you're making sure that it gets part of the sign-up process. And there's a number of steps on how you get it actually released and get people to purchase and to use and to adopt whatever you're building.
So I think it's safe to say that building a product is complicated. Is that,
yeah.
Is that fair? I mean, from somebody who's not VP of product at REDX, like I look at that even as an employee here at REDX, right? And I've been here a long time. I still look at that and I go, there's a lot of moving parts in order to get maybe even just a little button added somewhere, which is wild. So let me ask this question. Let's take a product like GeoLeads, for example.
Okay. What's
the time frame to build a product like GeoLeads?
Well, this is always the thing that people want to know, right? And it always comes down to, it depends on what exactly you want it to do. So for people that aren't familiar with GeoLeads, I'll set the scope a little bit, and that'll help answer the question. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so our GeoLeads product, what we're doing is we have a map view that opens inside of Vortex. You type in an address, it drops a pin on that address, and then you can pick the properties around it that you want to search for, and you're pulling the contact information from the homeowners that live around that address that you typed in. We also have a number of filters that are around that, so you don't pull everybody. You can search for a specific set of customers around that home. And then once you search those addresses, we're pulling credits from you that you have, and we're going and bringing those addresses into the system, into Vortex. We're going out and finding all the data that we can that's associated with that property and attaching that, and then we're displaying it up in a new folder for the user. So something like this could be, this is more of probably month-ish type project. When you look at, hey, we have an idea around something that we want to launch, and we want to go through and test it along the way. We want to make sure that we're accounting for different problems that users want to solve. Because sometimes someone will say, hey, I got this idea, but then we know that there are a few other problems that we can help solve along the way. And we think, how do we fit these things together so that we can accomplish more than that? Data Insights is actually an example of that, so we can talk more about that later. But we're trying to match different pieces together so that we can help as many customers as we can. And so yeah, something like that comes in, and or a problem or a suggestion comes in like that, and we go through that whole process and try to build it out. And also that depends on dedication around the team. So as things come up, we can't just put everything on cruise control. We have to continue to support the customers that we have and help them. And then there's a number of data teams that are a number of teams that are involved. So you have the data team, which acquires data and make sure that gets served up. You have make sure that the product is supported correctly. Make sure that all the teams understand how the product should work, and that everyone else has input around it. So yeah, there's a number of things there that hopefully that answers the question on how long.
It sounds like with the many people that are working on it, it's not a short process.
No,
right? It's not something that you create quickly and get out to market. There's a lot that goes into it before it's even a functioning product, let alone a helpful product, right? Which is wild. So let's talk about what we want to talk about. Let's talk about the data insight tools. Tell us what these are, because these are brand new. We just released the first one within the last few weeks, and then the three that came after that were just released right around Cyber Monday. So these are brand new products that we've released to REDX customers. Tell us what they are, and then let's talk a little bit more about them.
Yeah, so data insights add-ons, we have 4 different packages that you can add on to your product. And what we do is we go out and find data, and we attach it to any of the data that's available for a property. We attach it to the property, and we display it for you inside of Vortex, inside the detail view. And there's really a number of problems that we tried to solve. We also had some opportunities that come up as we tried to understand what data is, what data capabilities do we have. But really, this is what I mentioned before about finding a number of problems that we hear about, and we try to think, what's a great way that we can help solve those problems for our customers. So there are 3 different problems that sometimes get talked about at the same time, but not always. But we have these three main problems. There's probably more than that, but right now I'll talk about these 3 specific problems. And what that is when someone is trying to prospect, they want to better define or find their audience. So if I have this huge group of people, what's a better way for me to define who I need to talk to? So that's one of the problems that we see. Another problem is when I'm on the phone with somebody, how do I sound like an expert? I want to stand out, separate myself from all the other real estate agents, and we know that pretty much everyone knows a real estate agent. Most of the time, they're more of a part-time agent. There aren't as many professional agents that do this full time, that are dedicated to their craft, that really are experts. But that's hard to do over the phone when you're having an initial conversation. You can share your history. That's one way to do it. Share your track record. But it's here and now. They care about what is it that you can do for me, not what have you done for other people. What can you do for me? So that's one of the problems that we see. The other part is around tailoring your message. So don't just give the same sales pitch to every person. Scripts are great and they help, but as the experienced prospectors know, once you have that down, there are ways that you can offer changes or nuances within your script that help you stand out from everybody else. So those are really the 3 big problems that we try to solve with data insights, and we feel that having this information readily available for agents as they're prospecting is going to help solve those 3 problems.
So recap that, right? You said there's these 3 problems that agents face, and our goal was to set out to try to solve these and more, but these were kind of the main ones. Number 1, you said we want to help people define their audience, which I think about Utah County, which is where we're based, right? Where REDX is based in Orem, Utah, and we've got well over 500,000 people that live right here in the county within a 20-minute drive of our offices. And if I'm a prospecting real estate agent, how do I know who I want to talk to, and how do I define the people that I want to talk to? Do I want to talk to single family residences or multi-unit dwellings? Do I want to talk to people who own homes, under 350,000 or over 750,000, right? So you're talking about answering, how do we define the audience, right? Who do we talk to? And then
if I jump in, sorry,
yeah.
there's a couple of key ways that we can do this. And so filtering now has become more powerful, but imagine that you are subscribing to our pre-foreclosure product, and now you can filter down to who is in pre-foreclosure and also has a certain amount of equity in their home. Like, this becomes extremely valuable to you. Imagine now your list that you've gone through, you don't have to make the calls manually. We help to do some of that work for you. Or same thing within GeoLeads. You're searching around an area. Now you can better define as you're farming or farming an area, and you're calling these people, you can make less phone calls because you can better tailor your audience. So sorry to jump in there.
No, thank you. So number 2, you said be the expert, right? Which we work with real estate agents on a regular basis. And there's a huge portion of an agent's time that goes into knowing the market, understanding what's happening in the market, knowing what market trends and averages and peaks and valleys and all those things are, because they do want to be the expert, right? And these insights will provide a much simpler way for agents to do that. I know agents who, they've got spreadsheets upon spreadsheets upon spreadsheets to try to extrapolate the information that now Data Insights just gives to a lot of people, some of the information. And then third, you said it was about customizing the message, right? It was about crafting a conversation that you want to have with somebody. And like you said, knowing that somebody was in pre-foreclosure, but also has a certain amount of equity, not only defines the audience, but also allows you to craft the conversation. You go into it knowing what the situation is because these data insights have given you that information. So let's talk. There's these 4 data insights. Tell me what all 4 of these insights are.
Yes. So financial insights, which offers financial information about the home or homeowner. We have home and building information, which offers greater detail into what the home has. I mean, listing information has a lot of info there, but this goes into greater depth. And then you have lifestyle, which talks about interests from the homeowner or certain behaviors, behavioral preferences that they have. And the 4th is a market insights, which offers information for that specific property. We base it around the zip code of a property. So those reports are customized at a zip code level. And it helps you understand average price, days on market, which a lot of agents, good agents, are going to know that information generally or for their MLS off the top of their head. But imagine you're talking to someone, you're saying, for your specific neighborhood that you're in, or I know what it takes to sell homes in your area, because in your zip code right now, homes are selling for this. You can also see trend lines around any of those metrics, and then you see specific segments around the property as well.
And these are not all or nothing, right? Somebody who's using REDX, they could buy the financial insights, or they could buy the market insights, or they could buy the lifestyle insights, or they could purchase 2, 3, or all 4 of them. Correct?
Exactly. Yep.
And so let's dive in here a little bit, because something like the financial insights, I mean, opens up a whole amount of information, because there's things like estimated equity in the home, which you'd mentioned. There's things like estimated net worth. There's financial information. And when you're talking about defining the audience, customizing the message, man, to be able to pull in GeoLeads and then filter within a certain neighborhood for homes that have an income over a certain level, does an enormous amount for defining your audience, right?
For sure.
And that's really what it's all about, right? It's about giving insight into who the homeowner is, what situation they're currently in, and thus allow you to craft the conversation and list more homes more effectively. Is that a simple way of saying it?
For sure. Absolutely. And the other part of this too is when you talk to seasoned prospectors, experienced prospectors, they get this. They can cater their script. They can tailor their script to people over the phone because they're great at it. Some people are at the point where they're like, I can't quite handle that. I'm just trying to get my script down and make sure and gain my confidence in it. That's totally fine too, because then these come in handy when you're going and making the presentation, because you have all that information right away, and it's more easily accessible.
Yeah, something I totally agree. Something like the home and building insights, right, which gives more information into the structure of the home, right? I mean, you can see things like quality of construction. You can see construction materials. I mean, there's all kinds of information there that is incredible for helping you to craft that conversation and define your audience and get in touch with more people, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, especially when you're trying to do like a CMA or something on a home. Let's say you're prepping for a listing appointment, or you're even talking to somebody over the phone, and you can look through the insights, and you don't have to ask them like, well, how many fireplaces do you guys have? And you can know certain things like that and say, well, I mean, according to my research, I'm seeing that you're having these certain things that are valuable to your, therefore your home should be listed for higher than this, or you're trying to list your home at this point. And part of the reason that your home is overpriced is because, in your neighborhood, in your area, there's typically have, these amenities. And even though your square footage might, your building quality might be a little bit lower, or something like that, which you can now have some information to say, you just didn't quite price the home correctly, even though you might have looked and said, square footage is about the same, acreage is about the same, therefore price should be the same. Now you have more ammo to either to price it correctly, and vice versa, to try to get more for the home. You can use that information to help justify getting a higher list price and say, this is why this is why you hire an agent. Like, let's say you go to a FSBO, like, these are things that I take into account so I know how to price your home. This is why you should price your home, and why I'm going to help you net the most money when you sell, is because I have information like this.
So we've got a question from Tom Folliard. Tom, who is a regular listener on the podcast. He asked a question, and I'm going to get to this question, Tom, and we'll address this. But before we do that, Neil, I want you to show us the data insights, because if I'm not mistaken, you've got something prepared that you can pull up, and we can just take a look and see what this information looks like. Because I'm curious to know, and I'm sure that everybody else is, well, what else? What other type of data is there that's going to help me to define my audience and help me to be the expert and customize my message?
Yeah, for sure. So I'll pull up an example here. This is a lead that we have in our system. The data has been anonymized, except for we have the listing information here that shows up. But when you click on the data insights, you're able to see, here is the information around a financial package.
Can you even, well, maybe you can't zoom in there, but read some of those, read what some of those data fields are, because this is fantastic information.
Yeah, so around this lead, we're able to find household income, estimated mortgage debt, estimated equity, a wealth score, if they have interest in investing or not, and that is, are they owning multiple properties, an estimated age, marital status, length of residence, and an education level, to help you understand, this is perfect on helping to understand how you talk to somebody. Around home and building, there's significantly more fields, and it's going to depend on the information, but you see information, bedroom, bathroom, square footage, lot size, year built, some typical information that we have. But now you start to get into structural description, square footage, which is a differentiator, right? It tells you about how big the basement is, whether the garage has a carport. You have heating information. You have, let's see, a roof type description, tax amount, number of bedrooms. You have even a description around the garage type. So those are greater detail around the home and building. And now we go into lifestyle or interests. And for this particular person, we're understanding that they're a book reader, a tech enthusiast. They have interest in performing arts, home and gardening, traveling. They have interest in fitness, and they don't have any specific information about sports, but sometimes they'll let you know if they have sports. But this one they can tell also that they have a boat. There's interest in boating. So you have a lot of information about either how you can connect personally with the person, or even just things just in general about what they like to do to help you understand them. before you even start a conversation or while you're having the conversation.
It's awesome, right? If you look at it, we hear the adage, people work with who they know, like, and trust, right? That's a very common saying in any sales role. And what better way to get people to know, like, and trust you than building common ground, right? Looking in there and going, oh, this guy's also a golfer. I like to play golf, and we can talk to that. Or knowing that they have a boat, for example. I mean, it's phenomenal information to allow you to establish common ground and build relationships faster with these people. It's phenomenal. Show us the market insights, because that's the one that has some cool stuff, like you were saying, zip code to zip code, and allows you to look at that information there.
Yeah, exactly. So first, you'll notice that you can go between condos and homes up here, which is really helpful because that can really skew your reports that you have. But you'll see this real-time profile for within your market. And this is, like I said, it's based on zip code. It's updated on actuals every week. So you have that information. And you can see median list price, per square foot, price per square foot. You see days on market, the price, how many times prices are decreased, how many times they're increased, relisted, how many times or how often properties are relisted in the area, days on inventory, stuff about rent, most expensive, least expensive, and then this market action as well. And then you have some cool charts. So this shows, we have a seller's market. In most markets, you probably don't need a chart to tell you that, but it gives you evidence to tell you about where it's at, and also trends on what direction this is going. You see trends on list price, and you can find stuff like, hey, in this area, list prices are going up by quite a bit here in the winter. And you can start to, as you're talking with someone, you're saying, hey, list prices are going up. In fact, in the last 3 or 4 months, you've seen list prices go up, in this case, over almost $1 million, $750,000 or something like that. And then you have some information about market segments as well that are down here. But some of these information, like you can, sorry, I should have gone to these trends, but you can pick any of these trends from those metrics listed above and see trends on them. So you can see like, well, what's happening with price per square foot? Like maybe they're just bigger homes that are getting listed, but we can see that's not the case. And you can start to break this down as a person's asking you questions, and you're having that conversation. You have this information readily available.
It's amazing how much information is right there. I mean, you're looking at 90-day rolling averages of all of these different fields. I mean, that's a phenomenal amount of market information specific to the zip code that this particular property is, and that changed based on every zip code, correct?
Correct. Yep.
It's phenomenal. It's so cool to see the additional info that's available to give you insight. I mean, that's why they're named the way they are, right? Is to give you insight into the homeowner, into the situation, into the likelihood that they're going to sell, and then into the specifics of the market that can provide a tremendous amount of information, which is so cool. I want to address, and Neil, we can actually determine between the two of us who's best to answer this question that Tom has asked. What he says, is REDX working on any enhancements to increase the accuracy of the phone numbers that they're providing? So do you want to answer that, or do you want me to answer that? Because I think we could both speak to that.
I'm always like hearing your answers first, but whatever you want.
Yeah, let me speak to that a little bit, and if you can fill in any gaps that I missed, then we can speak to that. Tom, that's a fantastic question, and it's one that we get on a regular basis. And as long as I've been here at REDX since 2008, it's a question that we get on a very regular basis. And the truth is, REDX is continually working on enhancements, and there's two parts to that. There's an aspect of trying to find more phone numbers that are accurate. There's also an element of trying to remove phone numbers that we know are not accurate. And so there's those two kind of moving parts, and those two moving parts play into the perception of the quality of the data, right? And REDX is continually working on those. Since 2011, on a regular basis, we've brought in teams of people to call the phone numbers that we're providing to our customers. And so we're testing that data on a regular basis, not only our data, but that of our competitors. We're testing that of possible partners in the industry that we could be working with. And the whole goal is to improve on those two things, is provide better phone numbers and less wrong phone numbers so that we can do that for you. So we actually have teams at REDX dedicated specifically to enhancing data. And somebody who's been with us for a long time over the years will have seen the improvement in the data over the years. And I think what a lot of people want to see is they want to see a large jump in the improvement of the data. And a large jump like that to go from, 1 in 5 phone numbers that's correct to 3 in 5 phone numbers or something like that. A big jump like that is just not terribly likely, because what we're doing is in addition to working with multiple partners and acquiring data from different sources, we also have algorithms that we're running this data through that we're analyzing, and we make small tweaks, and we analyze and we make small tweaks. And so the way that you'll see improvements in the data is in small incremental or iterative improvements that you'll see in the data. And so it's those 1% changes that you see over time that begin to improve that data. Now, there have been times where we've made big jumps, where we've seen areas that we can make big improvements after doing these data studies and learning information. But those types of big jumps are few and far between. But yes, I mean, the short answer to that, Tom, is absolutely. That is a continual aspect of what it is that we do, because aside from all of the neat things like data insights and geoleads and the dialer and all of those cool things that are tools that help you to prospect more efficiently, if you can't talk to people, there's almost no purpose in using a solution like REDX or anything else like it. If you don't talk to people, it tends to not be a wise investment. And so, yes, we are continually looking to enhance the data and continually making those small incremental changes. Neil, did I miss anything?
Yeah, I think that was great. The few things that I'd add, and I like to pull back the curtain a little bit more. Hopefully that this is fine. But Tom, I'll give you a little bit of insight. We invest in this, like Tyler said, all the time, and we're participating in a data study right now, and we're this on not just what's the better data that we can acquire to help you to increase the quality of the phone numbers that are in there, but also what are things that we can do in our system so that we can give you a better experience around phone number quality. And we're investing in both of those areas right now.
Awesome. Thank you. A good example of that is like the dialer, for example. I mean, if you're using the dialer, and it doesn't mean that there's less or more wrong or correct phone numbers, right? But as you move through those phone numbers faster, the time in between positive conversations shortens. And so in addition to, like you said, in addition to the data side of it, there's also the product side of it, is how do we simply improve the experience and shorten the time in between those conversations? So that was some good insight.
Really, sorry, Tyler, jump in there one more time.
Please.
But really what I'm guessing Tom is getting at, which is what I hear in a lot of my conversations, is my contacts per hour is what the number that I'm trying to drive towards. And so the problem the solution that's being proposed is, hey, I better phone number quality or better phone numbers or something like that. But really what you're trying to get at is I want more conversations or contacts per hour. So there's a few different ways on how to increase that number. And one of those obviously is that solution, but there are a number of other solutions out there for that. And if that's really what you're getting at, and Tom, maybe we can talk after this or something like that, but I'd love to get inside a little bit more of your mind and what you're thinking. But those are just a few other thoughts that came to mind, Tyler.
Spoken like a true product guy, Neil, is any opportunity that as long as I've known you, any opportunity to get inside the mind of a customer and ask questions, you're all about it, right? Because that's what you do is you want to know what's the real problem, and let's figure out and identify the problem and then come up with effective solutions for that, which is exactly what a VP of product should be doing, is
Tyler,
running the team that does that.
So I think we need to tell them about the story of when you kicked me off the sales team.
All right, you tell that story, and I'll fill in the gaps on this one.
So we had Cyber Monday. It was a few years ago, and Cyber Monday is days. We have lots of people calling in trying to get signed up on the deal, and I was like, I'll jump in and I'll help. I understand enough about this, and I thought that I was, my ego might have gotten in the way a little bit, and I was like, I can do this, and get signed up and get their services on the deal, and our queue is backed up. So I'm trying to help get through that, but every time I talked with a customer, I couldn't help but ask about their experience and what it was that they were doing and what it was that we could do better. And eventually Tyler's like, you can't keep doing this. Like we have people that we need to keep waiting. So it's part of what I love about the job. And one of the things that drives me, sometimes, most of the time it's good, but sometimes I just can't help it.
Well, you know what? That's what makes you great at what you do, yeah, that's what makes you great at what you do. I don't have any gaps to fill in. That's really what it was. You were trying to help me by being an additional sales guy on a busy day, and you just kept defaulting to product mode. Is somebody would say, well, what about FSBOs? And you'd say, well, why do you want FSBOs? Tell me more about why you'd want to use a product like FSBOs. How would you prospect to those? Oh, tell me more about that. And so it was a very product driven conversation, which was funny. I'm glad you shared that. We've got a couple of additional questions. Tom did say thank you. Said I'm encouraged. It's encouraging to know that the phone number accuracy is an ongoing concern, and it truly is. We've got a question about Canada from Eddie. Eddie says, I'm new and located in Canada. Do you support the Canadian market? Yes, we do. We don't have all of our product suite that's available in Canada, but we do have several products available there. Eddie, I would reach out to a member of our sales staff, and they can tell you more about which products are available and help figure out which one makes the most sense for you. Amanda has a question here. She says, this is a good one for a product guy, actually. Amanda, thank you for joining us again. She says, just wondering, I was making calls this morning and kept getting kicked off the dialer. Do you happen to know what might have caused this? And as it hasn't happened before. So as a product guy, you'd ask all kinds of questions, right? As well, tell me more. Amanda, there's a number of things. I'm not aware of anything that had come up on a customer-wide level, but the best thing to do in a situation like that, our support staff is phenomenal and so good at diagnosing what the issue is. Sometimes it's as simple as, your internet could be going real slow one day, and that's causing problems. And so I'd recommend reaching out to our support team because they're fantastic at diagnosing the times where something like that is a problem. Neil, here's a question that I know the answer to. I'm going to ask this on behalf of our customers because I do get this question a lot. What else is REDX working on? What are some of the things that you can share with us, if any, that REDX has that may be coming? Yeah.
So one of the things that that you'll see coming out relatively soon is that we're working through, trying to finish and trying to get through testing, is that we need to have an updated experience within Vortex. So as we try to build, one of the this goes back to our earlier conversation about as building, there are decisions that are made, which is sometimes we build something to try to get it out, get value to our customers faster, knowing that it isn't quite the ideal experience, but you can engineer something to death and never get it out. And ultimately, what the work that I do, it doesn't matter until not just I give it to customers, but until customers use it. If customers don't use it, it's as if it doesn't exist. And that's the mentality that I take. So we have to get something out that customers will actually use and that they'll find value in. They have to get that value. And so one of the experiences with our layout, just within how the leads look when customers are prospecting, that's something on right now. There's also we hear a lot about team functionality, about trying to bring on multiple users and have them prospect or use be able to have insight into whose notes that are happening or different leads from different accounts. That's another thing that's on our mind. We also have ideas around how do I not just prospect or reach out to new leads, but how can I use Vortex to help stay in touch with the people that I already know or that I already have relationships with? That's something that's really important. And then another one is, how do I get outside leads and leads that I'm either warming up or that I get from other places, and how can I automatically bring those into Vortex? And part of that overall is, as you think of what are we doing with Vortex, is a lot of times Vortex is looked at as a place where you can make your initial call. But we see Vortex as so much better than that, as so much bigger than that. This is a place for you to build relationships with your customers within the platform. And we know that there are some features that are lacking there that we're trying to improve. Different contact methods. So there's the phone, which is probably the best way to make an initial contact with someone. But we had one agent that said, about 80% of his contacts, when he actually has a conversation, they're just not ready to sell yet. And so he has to maintain that with them. So we're coming up with ways of how you can maintain that conversation outside of that initial call, stay in touch with them until they're ready. So those are some of the things that we're working on. And we hope to, I want to have them out as soon as we possibly can, but there are just some constraints there. Now, looking back, Tyler, one of the things that is really interesting is I look back at this year, and I'll pull back the curtain a little bit more on the inside of what we do in building products. So March 12th happened, and most people remember this day. There are days in my lifetime that I'll always remember. I'll remember where I was on September 11th. March 12th is one of those days, and there's a few things that happened before that, but March 12th seemed like it was the day when the COVID pandemic became really real for people. And we got together at REDX in our leadership, and we said, our customers are going to need help. What are we going to do? And there have been a lot of people on the leadership team that have been through 2009 to the 2008, 2009. And just to see the empathy, the care, the level of care for our customers. And we said, what are we going to do? And we said, we need to offer more ways to get in touch with people. And we had new product ideas that came out of that discussion. But we also were like, we have to be able to deliver. And so you look from that time that it happened, we've released a simpler version of the dialer. We have released a way for customers to work the leads that they've purchased while after they cancel, and not bringing in new leads, but just continue working their current leads. There's a subscription for that. We've released market insights, financial, lifestyle, home and building. We've released all of those products, and we're testing several others. Those items, those products that I mentioned, we're testing, and all of that has happened since March, which is pretty incredible. And so, if anyone's feeling this, connection right now is so important, and it's important and we want our platform to facilitate that connection. And so as you are trying to reach out to people, not people that you want for new business, but also people that you already care about, we want ways for you to connect with them, and we want our platform to facilitate that. Hopefully it's to grow your business. If not, at least to be a good human.
Thank you. I totally agree. I think as we look back on 2020, I think that there's a lot of changes that we're all making personally and in our families. as we look forward to 2021. I think that people's resolutions this year are going to be very different than they have been in the past, right? There's going to be very different changes that people make in their lives. 2021 will be an exciting year for REDX and for its customers because, like you said, there's a number of products that you've mentioned that we're working on. There's others that aren't mentionable yet, but are just as, if not even more exciting than some of the ones that you mentioned. And so it's going to be exciting as we attempt to facilitate some of that. So thank you, Neil. I appreciate we've bumped right up to our time here. We talked about some cool stuff, and I'm grateful to have you here with us. It was fun to have you on and learn a little bit more about how REDX builds products, to learn a little bit about the insights that we have, and we'd love to have you back. For those of you who are maybe new to the REDX podcast, the REDX podcast is actually one of those things that came out of the March 12th discussions. Is we started doing shortly after March 12th, we started doing this podcast. Initially, we were doing it every single day. We had a guest on where we were talking about what people were doing during the pandemic, how were they finding opportunities and creating stability in their business, and then we went to 3 times a week, and now we decided to maintain it at one a week. We typically do this every single Thursday. If you're not getting the updates to the REDX podcast, go to our website, theredx.com, and click on the podcast link in the header, and you'll be given an option to subscribe to the updates. So we send you not only emails on upcoming podcasts, but we also send you highlight reels and all kinds of neat stuff, all kinds of additional content that comes out of these podcasts as we interview great people. And today was a little bit different as we interviewed somebody internally here at REDX. Typically, we're interviewing real estate professionals who are doing something well that we'd like to pass on to our customers. So again, if you're not getting updates and getting the emails there, please do that. We do this every single Thursday, 1:30 Mountain Time. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Neil, hang tight, and we'll wrap things up on the back end. But everybody have a fantastic remainder of your week, and we look forward to next week.
Thank you.